but overcast Monday morning, although the sun is trying to break through. And it's always a sunny day in this studio whenever someone from the Ocala Fire Department comes in and joins us. Captain Jesse Blair is with us this morning. Captain, good morning to you.
Hey, morning. I appreciate your invitation.
Captain Blair, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with the Ocala Fire Department.
Well, I'm the EMS captain for Ocala Fire. I've been there 20 years. We started out as a firefighter and just kind of moved up the ranks.
Let's talk a minute about something that's very, very urgent in our community, but it's urgent nationwide. And it's something the late Chief of Police, Greg Graham, was emphatically behind, and it's recovery of addicts on from opioids. We got the system where they can take their drugs and turn them in and get help. But people, I don't think, understand, even though they hear how bad it is, I don't think they understand truly how much of an epidemic. I would say if it was worldwide, but it's only in the United States we think of it, but it would be pandemic quality in the United States, and that's opioid overdoses. You're on the front lines. You and your paramedics are on the front lines. How has the world changed for you guys now that you have to carry Narcan with you and almost every time you go up to a situation where it's an unconscious person that people don't know how the first thought is, are we dealing with an OD? How much has the opioid crisis changed the way that you and first responders go about doing your job?
That's a huge question. We could talk for hours about that, but in Ocala and Marion County right now, we're just now beginning to understand the scope of this problem. From August 15th, we've had 195 people overdose. That doesn't include the people who are using and aren't overdosing, and it's not limited to opiates. The program that we started doesn't limit the help to people who are overdosing on opiates. You could be addicted to anything, alcohol, crack, any of the drugs, or just have some kind of mental health disorder that kind of predisposes you to being addicted to things. But it doesn't matter what you're addicted to or what your problem is. You can call us and we can navigate you through the muddy waters of help.
You make a valid point, because people now with the opioid crisis out of control. And, you know, we hear about COVID and the vaccine coming and they're trying to bring it under control, but you don't hear about the opioid crisis becoming under control. But so you forget sometimes that alcohol poisoning and alcohol addiction is a very big problem in society.
Huge.
And you forget that people are still snorting and smoking cocaine at numbers that have not been seen, even when I was not such a good kid when I was in my 20s. Okay, I'll be the first to admit I'm very open with that. I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean for 22 years. And the greatest day of my life was the day that a police officer held a Glock to my head and said, "Don't move." Mm-hmm. You know, people go, "How's that the greatest day?" Because I'd have been dead within 6 months if that hadn't happened. I was snorting about 5 grams a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And I was running a restaurant 110 hours a week. It was people go, "Oh, you were at," no, I was just trying to stay awake to work. And it just, you're amazed at what the human psyche or your conscience will allow you to do if you have a good excuse for it.
Sure.
I was going to work. I wasn't really a drug addict. I was using it so I could work 110 hours a week. No, I was a drug addict. There's no other way around it. But at the time, I was justifying it by saying, I'm working 110 hours a week. Sure. I need the help. You hear that a lot, don't you? Stories like that.
Everybody's story is different, and everybody's got one. And nobody meant to get addicted to anything.
100%, I didn't mean to.
No. And I think that's one of the things that led us to the problem getting this big, is people treat drug addiction like it's a choice. And it may start with a choice. It starts with a bad decision. But these people who have substance use disorder are no longer in control of themselves. They can't control it. It's a medical problem, just like a heart attack, a stroke, or anything else. And society has to start treating it like that. Otherwise, if they go to the hospital and they get the cold shoulder and people look at them out of the corner of their eyes and just think that this person continues to make a bad decision.
Scumbag, what are you doing?
It's not,
Yeah. But that's how people look at it.
Yeah. As a paramedic, I was running these calls. I ran to the same guy 5 times in one shift, knowing that if he would just make better decisions, he wouldn't be in that situation, but that's not the case. And I didn't understand it at the time, but after hearing hundreds of these stories, these people aren't in control, and we have to start treating it like it's a disorder or a disease and not a choice.
I'll give you a prime example of how not in control people are. My younger sister, her wedding reception, big party, entire family there. The only way I was able to function, and when I go back and look at the pictures, I'm like, how did people not know I was high as the day is long there? Because I was sneaking in at a church, at a community center. I was sneaking in the bathroom, people knocking on the door and everything, so I could go do some cocaine so I could function.
Yeah.
At my sister's wedding reception, when I think back of that, I go, you dumbass. What was you? But I was not, the Tom Schmitz I am today was not the Tom Schmitz I was then, although I thought that Tom Schmitz was perfectly fine.
Yeah. A lot of these people, especially when you talk about opiates, are using just to function. They're so sick if they don't use, and none of them, not in the hospital, not outside the hospital, none of them want to be in that situation, but if they don't use it, they're going to be sick.
Well, what programs do y'all, we want to talk about some programs that you have at the fire department, we have here, that help people with these issues. Talk a little bit about that.
There are so many people that came together to put the process or put this program in place. I couldn't name all of them, but the key players, the Marion County Department of Health and the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, they offered a grant to us because we had something called the Community Paramedicine Program, and that allowed us to stand up a system where our paramedics and a individual from Lifestream Behavioral Health goes to the hospital whenever somebody overdoses and provides services for those people. So it usually requires a Marchman Act to be applied. The person is put in protective custody, so they have to go get a mental health evaluation. Once they are complete with their mental health evaluation, they get discharged from whatever facility they went to. Our paramedics follow up with that person on a daily, every other day, every third day, whatever that patient needs. We try to provide those services for them with the help of probably 15 other community organizations.
Tell us now. That's the Ocala Recovery Project, right?
Correct.
Tell us what is Narcan Leave Behind program?
So Narcan is the drug that kind of counteracts the opiates. It doesn't work on other drugs, it only works on opiates. But if you know somebody who's addicted, you can go to our website, ocalafire.org, and you can ask for Narcan and we'll come deliver it to you. Or if you're on a call, if we end up going to your house, your neighbor's house or something like that for an overdose, and you know somebody who uses opiates, we'll give you Narcan. So we'll give you Narcan and we'll train you to use it. So you can use the Narcan to help save somebody's life.
So we have Narcan Leave Behind program that you will distribute Narcan to people so they can save people's lives.
Right.
Then you have the Ocala Recovery Project. Not only does it take you through and get you some mental health evaluation, but then paramedics follow up on an as-needed basis with each patient to make sure they're still staying on track for their recovery the way they need to do.
Correct.
These things have to cost money. How much they cost people if they become part of these programs? What's the charge?
This program is funded through the CDC, so it doesn't cost anything.
Completely free.
Completely free. Ocala Fire Rescue will come to your house, your apartment. Some of these people, actually a lot of these people don't have regular housing, but as long as they can tell us where they'll be and what time, we'll meet them under a tree, at a park, in their tent, wherever. We don't care where it is, and we'll provide these services to them.
Is a lot of what you see the homeless population, or does this disease reach out and touch every aspect of the community?
About 70% of the patients have an address. So
70% have an address.
Have an address.
So we're talking about moms and dads and doctors
Absolutely.
and lawyers and garbage truck workers and accountants and guys that do plumbing and women that do sewing. We're talking about all kind of everybody.
You might not know the person in your circle who's dealing with this, but there's somebody in your circle dealing with addiction. They might not be addicted to opiates, but there is some underlying problem.
In my
there.
circle, I would say we're all dealing with alcohol. And after the Gator loss this weekend, it probably got a little worse.
Well, we're only a phone call away.
Right. And is alcohol probably the number one abused drug?
No.
What's the number?
Well, I can tell you, alcohol is probably what people use the most, but have the easiest time controlling, if you can use the word controlling. Like, they don't end up in the hospital as much as the people who are using heroin or some kind of opiate. These people are asking for heroin, but they're not getting sold heroin. They're buying fentanyl.
Well, that's the thing. The game changer here recently has been the introduction of fentanyl by people who don't care. They care about their bottom line and how much money they're making. They don't care whether there's too much fentanyl in there so people can die. And you guys, as paramedics, are on the front line. I've heard of paramedics ODing when they go to a call because they've come in contact with fentanyl. And so now you got PPE you got to wear now when you're dealing with this and everything. I mean, you guys on the front line are in danger without ever taking a hit of opioid or a hit of heroin or anything.
We haven't seen that in Ocala. We haven't seen that in Marion County, but there's certainly, I think the drug you're referring to is carfentanil.
Right, carfentanil.
And it's what they use to tranquilize elephants and rhinoceroses and stuff like that, but in powder form. If you walk into a room where that stuff is being manufactured or cut up or something like that, you're at risk, yeah.
It's just the fact that when I think back to my days and how, I knew the drug dealer, though. I was sure it was good stuff. He was my buddy. You really never know whether you're dealing with junk, good stuff. And there is no such thing as good stuff when you're talking about illegal drugs. But what we're talking about is, something that's laced with so much fentanyl it could kill you the first time you use it.
It's definitely killing people. It's definitely killing people every day that goes by. I don't think I've not been to the hospital for an overdose since August 15th.
If a person wants to get clean, because you have to want to get clean before this will work for you. If a person wants to get clean, what do they need to do?
Well, you get into the program by calling my phone. My phone number is 352-266-4769. That'll get you directly to me, and I'll help you navigate to the next step. That's the best way to get a hold of the program. If you overdose and you go to a hospital here in Marion County, the hospital is going to call me, and I'm going to come see you at the hospital. And from there, we'll get you to where you need to go. And then LifeStream Recovery Services also helps a lot with that, and they're located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Highway 200.
You talk about immediate assistance. What do you mean when you say immediate assistance?
For an example, somebody who went through the program but was not completely successful called me because he said, I don't have drugs, but if I don't get some help right now, I'm definitely going to use drugs. I need help. Please help me. So we were able to, we met him at his apartment, figure out what was going on, get him over to a treatment center that provided Suboxone, which is a drug that helps people who are addicted to opiates.
It helps the cravings.
Right, it helps the cravings. So we got him to an organization called WOCA that administers Suboxone. They helped him immediately. They weren't even open. We called somebody in, they responded, provided him what he needed, and he was successful at least for another couple of days.
So immediate assistance with this is just like if you call the suicide hotline.
Yep.
They give you immediate assistance.
Immediate
if you say,
assistance.
Look, I'm thinking about seriously contemplating taking my life, I mean, they'll be in touch with the police in your area and everything. It's immediate assistance.
Immediate.
Well, this is just as important, and that's why it needs to be treated this way, because be honest, you could be without any desire to committing suicide
Absolutely.
with the next opioid or the next bump of cocaine or the next crack rock you take that you don't know whether it's good stuff or bad stuff. Mm-hmm. You could be committing suicide without really realizing that that's what you're doing.
There's people here that are trying to buy powder cocaine and are being sold fentanyl, powdered fentanyl. So they think that they're going to, cocaine is an upper. They store fentanyl in the same amount that they use cocaine.
And it kills them.
Automatically dead, yeah. Luckily, there's enough Narcan out there now where we're not losing all of those people, but a lot of them, 40 people this year, are dead from that.
40 people in Ocala, the city of Ocala, or
in Ocala.
in
Yes,
Ocala,
in Ocala.
not Marion County, just Ocala.
Right.
How many overdoses have we had up to this point in Ocala this year? Do you know?
In the city, we've had 195.
In the city.
That have been Marchman acted and gone to one of the hospitals. There are some overdoses that we don't capture. They're not Marchman acted. They don't go to the hospital. They get Narcan in the field.
Right.
So those numbers we're not sure of.
And anybody, I know, I saw a thing on Fox News where there's a group of, they didn't say they were good people. They just said they understand what they're doing. There's a group in, I think it's California. It's a group, it's a drug dealing group that will sell you heroin, and with your heroin you get a Narcan pill. You get a Narcan pen too.
I have heard that. And listen, at the point we're at right now, if anyone's selling drugs and wants to give their patrons some Narcan, they can call me and I will deliver it to them. A lot of people say that that's enabling, but if you have a daughter or a son or a mom or a dad that's addicted and that Narcan is going to give them one more day with you, I'm good with giving you that day. If you need Narcan from us, call Ocala Fire. We'll give you Narcan.
Yeah, just I was, I didn't want to say that they were thoughtful drug dealers, but at least they understand that what they could. And I think they're doing it in California for the same reason. They should start doing it here, because California is wanting to prosecute them for the death that they're causing.
Ocala
just like
is,
here, Ocala's got three
right.
first-degree murder charges against
Yep.
drug dealers.
Yep.
And there's more in the works already coming down the line. Also, you have the amnesty program, the police department offers, and that's the same type deal. You walk in, say, I got a problem, here's my drugs. Immediate assistance is given. No questions asked, no jail time.
Yep.
You're taken to a facility.
It's awesome.
And immediate care is is given. What's the recidivism rate that you see from addicts?
Out of 195 people, we've only had 7 people be repeat customers. That doesn't mean that 195 people have been successful yet. Like you said before, you have to want to get clean. But talking to someone who had been addicted, before you go to treatment, you use and you don't care and it doesn't bother you. You're just using because you love to use. But once you go to treatment that first time and they tell you it's wrong and you learn about all the different tools that you could use to get over your addiction, it kind of plants a seed in your brain. So you never use and enjoy it like you did before you went.
I'll give you a prime example. I didn't, the night with the Glock to my head, no, was not the last night I ever used cocaine. I'd be lying if I said when I got out of jail the next day, I wanted to calm down, so I did a little cocaine, okay? But when I decided that it was done, the counseling I got, and I didn't go to 12-step and I didn't do a program like this, you'd be amazed how an electronic door shutting behind you, clanging shut, and the only way you could get out is some other human being opening that door to let you out. That was cathartic for me. That was what finally told me, you don't want to live in an environment where electronic doors shut behind you and they hand you food on a plastic tray through a hole in a door. So that was my moment where I go, you're better than this. You have to do something. But everybody has that moment. But until you have that moment, you're not going to get better.
Right.
You have to have that moment where you realize that you can help you. And then the fire department is there. Anybody that wants that kind of help, the fire department's there to give. And by the way, if you think you want that and it doesn't work the first, second, third, the fire department's still there for you.
Still there.
Because people say, yeah, but what if I failed the first time? What if I try to get through this recovery program and it doesn't work? Can I come back through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I understand that, like I said before, this is a disease. It's not necessarily a decision that you make. I know that in the beginning it probably is like that, but I don't care how many times you fall. The fire department, the reason the fire department was given this money is because we have the infrastructure. We touch these people anyways. We're there anyways with the overdose. And now instead of just being part of this vicious cycle that goes on, we're trying to break the cycle and get these people the help that they need.
Yeah, because before you would go, You bring them back, you get a pulse, you get them stable, take them to the hospital. Then you go back to the firehouse, wait for the next call.
Right.
Well, like you said, you had the same call to the same guy 5 times.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, the word, Einstein's insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Right.
Well, that's pretty much what you were talking about.
Yep.
And now y'all have decided we're going to do something different because it's insane to do the same thing over and over and believe the problem will just fix itself.
Right. So just a piece of that, the health department, the Marion County Department of Health, was instrumental in getting the grant to start this whole project. So I just want to make sure Ocala Fire Rescue does this with the help of so many other agencies. We do not do this by ourselves. Marion County Department of Health, the centers, the Vines, WOCA, all those people are working together.
You're just the spearhead because you're the
Right.
one that come in contact
Exactly.
with the addict.
Right. We couldn't do it if we didn't have all those partners.
Well, yeah, you got to have a facility. You got to have the counselors that understand addiction.
Right.
You got to have the people that'll say, no, you're being an idiot. Because sometimes some of the hardest talk, I've been in the recovery program, and sometimes the hardest talk were from my recovery counselors. And it's an ugly, ugly time sometimes, but it has to be because you're in an ugly, ugly situation in your life when you're addicted. And I don't say that lightly because, like I said, I've been 22 years clean of cocaine, and it's not some. Every day I wake up, look in the mirror in my house and go, not today. Because don't get me wrong, if somebody laid out a big line of cocaine and I was at a party where we had a few cocktails or something, the urge would be there.
Sure.
And that's what people don't understand is this is not something that goes away.
Right.
It's kind of like COVID. You keep the virus is going to be here forever. The addiction is there always in the back of your mind. You have to have the tools in place to be able to fight that urge.
Yep.
And you can't do that alone. And that's why you guys started, but there's a whole lot that goes into it
Right.
before somebody's healthy again.
I don't go to the hospital without someone from Livestream coming with me. Those are the mental health professionals. They're the ones who make the biggest difference long term for that patient.
Talk with Captain Jesse Blair of the Ocala Fire and Rescue. Captain Blair, tell people if they want to get into recovery, or if they have a loved one that they think needs to get, because I'm sure they can't put their loved one in, but they can start getting information, or they can start getting on the radar. How do they do that again?
Call 352-266-4769, or you can go to ocalafire.org and you can sign up that way.
It's just it's one of those things where, and I've walked a mile in the shoes, so I know the difficulty of turning your life around. And by the way, 90% of the people that are in these kind of situations don't realize they need to turn their life around. They think this is normal and this is perfectly fine, because once you get addicted, once you're in the middle of an addiction, you don't realize that it's not normal. To you, that is normal life. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think people from the outside go, how can that be normal, staying up 3 days in a row? But until you do it, you don't. I completely understand people that have never done it before, never had an addiction, going, a disease. Stop. They made that decision themselves. But until you walk a mile in the shoes, you have no idea. Yes, it is a choice. The first time I did cocaine was my choice. The last time I did cocaine was my choice. Everything in between was a little difficult.
Yeah.
A little difficult.
As a community, if we continue to treat this the way we have, then it's not going to get better.
Captain Jesse Blair, thanks for coming in and talking about this very important subject with us.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back where it is 1370 AM, 96.3 FM on a Monday. It's Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz. We'll be right back after this quick timeout on WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.